So this is a bit of a different and interesting video I wanted to make, and essentially the title is "Soulja Boy is literally the king of internet culture." You know, if you're aware of Soulja Boy, and not many people are in the mainstream because he was popular so long ago and isn't near enough to the same popularity that he once had at his peak. So not a lot of people know about Soulja Boy. This generation coming up, like Gen Alpha, won't know about Soulja Boy really, unless he has some new popping clip that comes up in a couple years or in a couple months from now. But you know, Soulja Boy really is like a legend and a pioneer when it comes to internet culture. You know, and it's like when Soulja Boy first like started to come out and then released his biggest song, which was Crank That. And I think Crank That released in like 2003 or 4 or something like that. So really, again, early 2000s is you know, the start of a growing, ever growing internet, culture that would now form into what it looks like today in 2026, 20 years later or so. And Soulja Boy started all of this, like it's crazy because his song, he's really the Mr. He's really, you know, the Mr. Converter. He's really like Mr. Viral, and he was one of the few original artists making dances to his songs and promoting them through the dances, and getting people to buy his music, and setting it as a ringtone and all this type of stuff. Eventually would lead to the song, I think being one of the biggest songs in the country within that, at least that year or that month that it came out, right? And so it's just, he was all over the place. He was a mainstream artist, and at that time, at that age, I think he was still like a teenager, like maybe like 18 or so, something like that. 18, 19, 17, somewhere in and around this age was how old he was at the time. And getting all that fame, getting all that notoriety and attention, so quick, so young, it kind of, really clouded his mind and made him turn to some, things that he really couldn't come back from, like just being strung out and high all the time on, recreational drugs and stuff, like partying too much, and not being able to stay focused and concentrated for the long run and the longevity of his career. He sacrificed that for like the short-term fun that he would have. And now he's kind of just like a shell of his previous self, that really, if his previous self like had stuck to the original plan that he would have had, which is to maintain being the most viral, long-standing artist that he could possibly be with the music that he made, and maybe even evolve it over time, he really could have been a mainstay artist even today. I really do think that he was like one of the first of his kind, right? An inventor, an innovator, that we can't forget about, because this story is important. And although maybe looking on it like later on kind of gets a bit tragic, and not to say he's not still here with us and still having some successes, here and there, but compared to what he had and a run he could have went on, it just wasn't. He just didn't take the music, the music journey or music path and plan that he had originally intensely enough, and he didn't do it extensively enough to really see what the full potential would be like. So it's like, a lot of these rappers coming up now and have come up over the past 10 to 15 years, 20 years, 5 years, whatever, or the past year, have really copied this blueprint and managed to build something a bit more long-standing than even Soulja Boy himself has. But, it's crazy that Soulja Boy kind of let it all go, and this is what the fame can do to you. How you're supposed to. But I think when you get successful, it really becomes like a battle of mind and matter, and which one is more important. And I guess he chose the matter, and but that matter ends up destroying you. When you just pursue that and you just it ends up being all you ever care about. And then when that's gone, what happens? It's like, but your mind ain't going anywhere. Your mind is gonna be what you're gonna be with from the moment you're born until the day you die. So That's why mind is more important than matter, because it's more substantial, right? It lasts longer and it's really with you on, from the start till the end. So it's something that you should really put more value over than matter itself. And matter is important. We need it to survive and strive, you know? So we strategize our mind in order to be able to get to that matter, but always remember that the mind is more important than the matter, and the matter we wouldn't have the matter without the mind, you know? So I think he lost that balance along the way, tripped and fell, and a couple of times got himself back up and continued to fall. But I like to just highlight, the whole backstory of Soulja Boy, because it's interesting and it's something that I think we can all take inspiration from, and see where he went right, see where he went wrong. He had a bright idea, but he didn't continue on it long enough for it to really get to a point where it could sustain itself like more long term. And I don't think Soulja Boy is broke or anything, but he's really not anywhere he is now that he could have been now if he had done things a bit more, if he had done things in a bit more of a better way, like in the past. So yeah, I think that's an interesting story. Yeah.